live stream right now, so give me just a minute to verify it's working. It's setting up to be purposeful on Facebook Live. And it says we are officially now live for Freedom Friday. How exciting. So as always, when we do Freedom Friday, it originally started on a radio show on Money 105. We used to do behind the scenes of what was happening on the radio show, and we purposely called it Freedom Friday. So we had the freedom to share whatever we wanted. And what we've learned over the years we've been doing this now is every once in a while, it's pretty good to have a theme. And this year we chose leadership, and we chose purposeful people that were choosing to be leaders in their community. And Cecilia, you are such a leader. Will you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about you, how people find you? And I want to talk about our slaying titles in just a second. So share a little bit more about you.
Hi, Carol. First of all, sorry, Carol, why have I been thinking of that name? And now my dogs start to bark. But anyways,
it's okay.
April, thank you so much. Before I start, I'd like to thank you for having me here. You have always been one person I have admired.
Thank you.
After knowing you, I have really admired you. You are one great leader out there and someone who lives your faith. And so thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Cecille Valoria, and I just retired as a teacher after 31 years of teaching.
Wow.
22 years here in Sacramento. I retired because I had to take care of my dad.
That was a big decision.
Yes, it was. And it was a hard decision, but it was something that I feel was where God led me. And so after a lot of pondering and thinking about all the different things that caused me to fear, I surrendered and said, yes, Lord, if this is where you want me to go, then I'll do it.
That's so powerful. And obviously the puppy wants to be part of our conversation. So we'll just allow him to have fun back there.
Oh my gosh.
And everything has purpose and timing. And maybe all the puppies need to be notified that he has something to say. So share what you used to teach and how that influenced you. And then we're going to dive into how we share the same titles as well.
Well, I used to teach elementary school. My last assignment was 5th grade. But before that, I taught all different grades. I was an EL teacher. I was a gate teacher. I was a 4th grade teacher, 2nd grade teacher. So I taught all different grades.
Isn't that fun? You know, not many people know the word gate, and gate means gifted and talented education. And I was a gate student, by the way. So I totally love that you taught gate. That's very cool. So I just had to comment on the similarities. We just keep aligning on so many things. It's so fun.
Well, April, I don't doubt. I expect you to be in gate because just listening to you and all the things that you say, you can see a person of wisdom.
Thank you.
So yes, I could say, yes, you are gate.
It was a beautiful gift. Anybody that's ever been through that, it was such an eye-opening to see different opportunities, and how awesome that you chose to serve in that. And you've been on such a journey for your own life. You have so many different giftings, and one specific gifting you're working to be more purposeful in now is taking, as we talked about pre-recording, is being every day committing to sharing about the book you wrote. And so I'm excited, and we found out without even knowing it, we chose one word specifically. And tell us about how you chose that word, how you chose the title of your book. Tell us about the journey.
I have changed the title of my book several times, but the word slaying has always been there. I got that title or that word from the background of the story in biblical times, which was from David and Goliath. And so I used the story of David and Goliath and put in new insights into that story. I mean, it's a story that a lot of people know about, but God kind of just gave me insights into, their story. In fact, and as a writer, you know this, that we start with something and we don't end up necessarily with that thing. We don't end up with exactly with the outlines that we put in. Like I had proposal that I put in before I wrote this book, and the proposal and the book are completely different. So my journey started actually with my story. I grew up as an 8-year-old diagnosed with anxiety. And, despite the fact that I had anxiety, thankfully, my parents were very supportive of me. They were religious. And so I already had the kind of faith that they had, which in my high school years, I had to own as my own faith. And so in my journey, God showed me that my fears were nothing compared to who he was. Amen. That he was bigger than all my fears, and that I can do, and this is one of my life verses, I can do all things through him who empowers me. So when I started writing my book, I didn't really just sit down and write everything. And I apologize for my dog. I am so sorry, you guys.
It has lots to say.
Yes, before we started, the dog was barking and I moved to another place. And now, and they were fine. And now it just, so I apologize for that. But anyways, I guess this is one way of showing you how God, even in the distraction that this dog is giving us, is still giving me the peace to continue and to be able to think well in our conversation. So anyways, in my journey, God kind of gave me several snippets of just my journalings and other things that I have learned throughout my journey. And when I started sitting down to write my book, all these things just came together. And that's how my book came to be.
Isn't that amazing how that all comes together?
Yes.
And now I want to go back to the leadership questions I gave you in just a minute, yet tell us the title of your book and when you said it all came together, share more about what you mean by that.
Okay, so the title of my book is called Slaying Your Fear Giants, Moving from a Jungle of Terror to a Garden of Peace. And with that title, it kind of gives you a background of where all this came together. I started really focusing on my book and really having the confirmation that I was supposed to write this book when I applied for a grant for our school garden. So that's where it started. I was in the garden because I got the grant.
Congratulations. That's a big deal.
Thank you. So the school was given $5,000 to start our school garden.
Excellent.
And so I had several kids join the garden club. And while working in the garden, I learned so many things. Just like Jesus uses the fields and nature and the gardens and all these different things about agriculture and farming and stuff in his parables and in his sermons, I actually got nuggets of wisdom as I tilled the garden and as I worked the garden with my students.
Wow.
And so it started there. So I started just writing several different things that I learned from the garden. And from then on, the other things that I learned throughout my life as I walked through my anxiety, God brought back to my mind. And so that's where it just went together. It came together into the different chapters that I put in my book.
That's awesome. And, if you were to go back, because the questions I asked you in advance, if you were to say when you knew you were a leader, do you remember that?
Yes, I do.
And
So I think I knew that I was a leader when I learned how to be a good follower.
interesting. Share more.
Okay, so one of the other questions you had was, what leadership skills do you feel creates the greatest impact? For
Mhm.
me, one of the greatest skills is really for a leader to be a good follower.
Tell me more.
If you are not a good follower, you are someone who won't really be able to relate to those who are following you.
Great
So
awareness.
for me, that is one of the greatest skills a good leader should have.
And how did you discover that?
In elementary school, I was a shy girl, besides the fact that, I was suffering from anxiety.
Mhm.
And so I was a shy girl. I was not very confident in myself, my looks. And so I always looked at my other classmates who looked better, who presented themselves better. And so I just followed them.
Interesting. And what value did you get from following them?
I found that the more you look at people, the more you follow leaders, you also educate yourself and give yourself an idea of what it is to lead and who good leaders are. And so those things actually helped me when it was my turn to lead, to know how to lead.
So much you said there. What I hear you observing is I would observe you. It sounds like you observed what you enjoyed and what you valued, and what you didn't want to do, and you didn't want other people to follow.
Correct. That is right.
And it is wise. I mean, we all ideally have mentors and guides and people that have invested in us to show us what it looks like to follow in their footsteps, right? I tell
Yes.
people Zig Ziglar is one of my favorite people to follow in the footsteps of, right?
Yes.
Because he presented a platform of simple values and yet powerful intensity and impact, right?
I love him.
We are all very thankful for the
Yes.
gift that he gave us all, right?
Yes.
And so if I'm hearing you correctly, your first journey and how you learned your greatest skill was to learn how to follow, so that when it was your turn to lead, you knew which characteristics you wanted to own out of each one.
Yes.
And that, if you were to look back at that, what was the biggest one? I mean, obviously learning to be a follower, but as you followed people, what did you notice consistently?
Well, consistently, I learned that a good leader listened well.
Mhm.
They listened to those who were around them. They were very observant. And two other virtues, two other characteristics that I really admire with leaders or great leaders are, one, vulnerability and authenticity.
Mm-hmm. Just like the puppies, right? The ability
Yes.
to be vulnerable in the midst of puppies.
Yes,
And,
exactly.
right? I mean, it's authentic. I mean, as much as it's a little background noise, it is just noise, right? And
Yes.
it's just life. And many people have that challenge, right? That's usually
And
why we have. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. And we have to choose which noise we listen to, or which sound we
Absolutely.
listen to. And as a good leader, in fact, one of my friends right now, who is a mayor for our place, has had so many input, so many distractions, but he needed to choose, or he chose what he needed to listen to. And I think as a good leader, you need to develop that kind of habit, to know and to discern which things you need to, say, I'm not listening to that, or which things you have to say, okay, this is wisdom, this is wise, I'm going to take that counsel.
And knowing how to discern that.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a powerful conversation in itself, right?
That's true.
So in that, as those that are listening, those that are digesting all these conversations, and anxiety is a real thing. I mean, anxiety is something you've lived with all your life, right? And
Yes.
you've learned how to know when and how to listen to what, right?
Yes, I have.
And so you wrote about how you supported your children in your school. You wrote about how you've gone through your own journey of slaying your fear, right?
Mhm.
And
Yes.
your giants. And the people listening today, what would be the one thing you would recommend that's possible today?
I would say, for me, okay, I have to be honest with you.
Thank you, please.
Yes, I believe that the reason why I am not as fearful or as prone to anxiety right now is because of my relationship with the Lord.
Amen.
And we do take our journey and we do discover things that help us. But for me, I have so many different things that I've done in my life, but I cannot go back and say all those things, like all the strategies that I have used, all the therapies, or all the different things I have used to help me out, are basically solely the reason why I'm not fearful anymore now. The only thing that I can say without a doubt and with all certainty is that it is my relationship with the Lord that has really helped me out and has given me the peace.
And that's been a journey. I mean, for anyone listening that does or does not understand what that means, right?
Yes.
Because and we could go down a whole nother tangent of leadership, right? Because everybody's got a different definition of relationship. Everybody's got a different definition of the Lord. Everybody's got a different definition of that. And we would ask anybody listening to discern what that is for them, right? And
Yes.
for you personally, and you and I share a lot of the same belief systems, so we understand what we mean by as we're speaking. But anyone listening, which God willing, we're touching all kinds of different people in all different types of lives, right? And the gift of the peace that we hear now, that we are aware that we get to choose what relationships we invest in. And some people could say, that's such an intangible awareness. And yet anybody that's been on the journey knows what a relationship is compared to a belief system, right? And there's a combination of both.
Yes.
And so for your journey, what gave you that confidence? What gave you that ability to know this is a real, tangible relationship? Not to put you on the spot.
What gave me that confidence is just knowing that what I believe in is true. And that, others might not think the same way that I do, but in tangible ways, I can see that my relationship with the Lord is real. My prayers, when I pray, I know I see answers. They might not be what I want exactly, but I know that the things that I have gone through are the best things for me. Like, say, for example, yes, it's difficult to take care of someone else, but in the difficulty, I have found that even when I don't get to sleep, I still have the strength the next day to continue going. And for me, I don't think that's coming from me, but from a more powerful source than myself.
The relationship.
Yes.
The internal commitment and connection, that is a choice.
Yes.
And when you chose the word slaying, what I know for me personally, what was so big about that, right? And yet I don't want to give you my word. So what really made you choose that word?
I chose that word because it's powerful.
Mm-hmm.
I chose that word because it just doesn't say, you know, you're going to put him down, or it's a more powerful word than all the others.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, slaying is once and for all, it's done.
Yeah, it's a commitment of slicing through, of truly, and using the David and Goliath concept, right? Is with our relationship, that commitment, that internal belief, that internal connection allows that slaying to happen without our own power, yet our commitment to be in that power.
Definitely.
And we know all what we're talking about, right? And yet I would hope, and the seed that I think was a big gift, and thank you for taking the time to share with our audience today. Thank you for sharing and committing to be a voice and a vessel, because fear is a very big power, right? And correct. It takes, and I love, many people have said, you cannot have faith and fear in the same sentence. It does not work that way. And so in order to own that faith, we get to slay the fear. And, my title ended up being Slaying the Onion, because we know that people have a multitude of layers to their fears and a multitude of layers to their life, and et cetera, et cetera. So I get to go to the next layer, right? But I love, and I wanted to celebrate what you have committed to being a vessel to. And I just want to thank you for being obedient to that, because any of us that have chosen to be walking in faith and walking in this journey know that obedience is part of the process.
Correct. And I love your onion.
Thank you.
I never thought I was going to ask you why slaying your onion. And when you explained it as multi-layer, it's true. There's several layers in an onion, and it could be layers of intensities. It could be layers of, differences, and it could be layers in terms of, peeling one layer at a time. So beautiful.
And discovering there's another layer to that layer and another layer to that. I had to have one of my coaches say, at some point in time, you're going to probably have to add another layer to the book you're already writing now. And I go, yes. And thankfully, I'm on the final stages of that. And yours is already out and they can get it today. We'll put the link in the commentary. Mine won't be released till October 27th. So they'll have time to read them both, right? Yes. And yet the gift of what we get to do is help people see that we can be a vessel and a resource to unite in slaying these, because slaying is a real necessity to take on the next step. And we get to choose that. Mm-hmm.
And this is Freedom Friday.
Amen. Amen. And so is there anything that I didn't ask you that you'd love to share with our audience, besides how they get in contact and how they find the book and all that good stuff?
Pretty much just one thing that's important to me in terms of leadership. Mm-hmm. The reason why it's important is, if I could go back to Eleanor Roosevelt's words, some people make things happen, some watch things happen, while others wonder what has happened. And so for us, I know for me, I can follow, but I can also lead.
Amen.
And I don't want, at the stage that I am right now, I don't want to just watch what has happened. I want to be there and to do something that I can do right now to help others.
I couldn't have said that better, young lady. That was beautiful. Oh my goodness. That was
Thank you.
perfect. And how do people get in contact? How do they find the book? How do they make sure that they get some resources and see the level of depth that you added into your writing, your message?
I am on, my book is on Amazon, Slaying Your Fear Giants, Moving from a Jungle of Terror to a Garden of Peace. You can also connect with me through my website, CecilleValoria.com. I am on Instagram as at Valoria Cecille. And I also have a Facebook page called At Slaying Your Fear Giants.
Right?
Yes.
Perfect. And all those ways they can get access to the information and follow up, etc. And so you're always a gift to spend time with. It's always a joy to have conversation and to watch the gift that we get to share and know that we are choosing to be able to impact lives. And thank you for taking the time.
Thank you so much, April. And in my mind, I'm like, I still have Carol in my mind.
That's okay. We got, I get called Amy, I get called all kinds of fun stuff. But at the end of the day, the important thing is that we're making an impact. So Cecille, have an amazing day. Thank you everybody for joining us. Share comments, check out the books. We are always thankful to have you join us. We'll see you again for another Freedom Friday. Bye everybody. Have a great weekend.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.